It is a beautiful, beautiful day on planet Earth and another day of Dose of Did You Know, where intriguing, unique, inspiring people come to talk about love and life and how it got them to where they are today. I am your host, Danny Rocco, and with me all the way from Texas, probably my favorite state, and I don't know why I don't live there because I love it so much, but Mr. Tommy is here with us. How are you today?
I'm doing really good. Thank you, Danny. Thank you very much for having me on.
Is the weather, talk to me about, give me some sweet nothingness about the weather there in Texas.
Well, it's glorious for one thing. I live in Central Texas, just north of San Antonio, and I think snow was spotted here sometime in the 18th century. Uh, so obviously, there's not a lot of snow plows or shoveling you have to do in December or January. I've lived in plenty of cold climates, and that was deciding one of the deciding factors. But yeah, you won't find snow around here unless
Oh,
something's really gone bad.
well, I'm just a smidge jealous as I sit here with my heater on so I'm not cold and you just have the natural God loving sun on you. But enough about that. I will cry later about it. Tell the world a little bit about who Tommy is.
Well, I guess I'm a work in progress is probably the best way to think about it. Obviously, I think I've been done many different jobs throughout my years. Most of the time, as a military officer, being a member of the military for just about 30 years. But just like anybody, life progresses, the person progresses. I've retired, so now I tend to think of myself as an entrepreneur. But I will always be a veteran, and I'll always have that. I think that military mentality at heart.
Yeah.
I come from a military family, so it'd be impossible not to. But um, but ask other people, and they might describe me in far less flattering terms. Maybe my kids.
You never know. I love how you say that. I always feel like, aren't we all a work in progress?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
really? But it is true. You are who you are at the core. And I just had this conversation actually with someone. I said, when people, we have civilians, we have veterans, and we can't think that they're two, you will always be a veteran. You might be a civilian veteran, right? But I think we have to encompass that and realize that and not try to like rip that veteran name, rip your service, what your life was, your purpose was out of you, and then make you, rename yourself. I'm really big into that. Like, it is just redesigning, right? Taking what you are and evolving into that next blossom. Well, maybe not a blossom because like you're a man, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got you. But I think you hit it on the head when you talked about evolving. You stay, you're a veteran, you serve for a period of time, but then everybody has to leave the military at some point. That's an inherent characteristic of the military. Everybody has to leave at some point. So you have to evolve. Um, you have to evolve into the civilian world. You have to accrue a new set of skills, but it just makes life so much more interesting when you can draw upon everything you did in the past, but then get excited about what you're going to learn today. And that's what I
Right.
do all day is learn and problem solve, it seems like.
Tell me a little bit about your path into the military because I said it was fascinating and you were like, you must not get out much. No.
Well, I don't. There's a pandemic going on, but I guess my own personal route. I think it for some reason it seemed like we were almost all preordained to go in the military. I've got three brothers and my dad, and we've all spent in excess of about 25 years of peace in the military. So it almost seemed like we were almost destined to go on the path. It was one that we all chose, my brothers and I. So we knew we were going to go in the military. We knew I wanted to get a college education, and for me, the Air Force Academy, where I went undergrad, seemed to be the way to do both. I never envisioned being a careerist in the military, but it just that's where I kind of found myself as a young man and being able to see the world, being able to feel a part of a team, and I decided I was going to stay with it until I was no longer feeling that way. And after more than 26 years in active duty, I continued to feel that way, so I just stayed. And it just and I'm sure every person who's done that has their own pathway of how they went about it, but that was my particular.
Isn't that crazy? Do you
Yeah,
look
yeah.
back and be like, wow, 25 years? I guess, you know, did it seem like it went fast? Because you're like, I'm going to do this until it's not, you know, I don't want to do it anymore.
It went so fast that sometimes I can't believe that I actually was a part of it. It seems like it was just such a fast moving train, and then the alarm clock went off, and it's, hey, you're here, time to go.
Yep, that's it. So I see this connection within your family, right? You have this military connection with your siblings and your father, but you guys are really at the bones of who you are, entrepreneurs. Your sister's an amazing entrepreneur. I know you have another brother that is an entrepreneur, and now there is you. So where did that come from?
Well, I think that's somewhere in our DNA. I don't know what cosmic forces collided to implant that in our family's DNA, but we're that. We're military veterans, entrepreneurs, and a lot of times, most of the time, that's contained in the same person, both an entrepreneur and as a military member. I was a military member when I went to University of Notre Dame for my MBA. I focused on entrepreneurship through my graduate degree. So it's just one of those inexplicable things about my family is that you're just drawn to those two ways of living, entrepreneurship and or being a military member. And I think they go hand in hand in a lot of cases. I think just being able to think out of the box creativity like an entrepreneur has to do it. It lends itself to a lot of cases in military life where you have to think on the fly and be inventive.
Oh, I lost you. There you are. You're back.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think
it's the bandwidth wars, Tommy. It's the bandwidth wars that are going on in everyone's home.
Exactly. I'm like in Switzerland right now as far as the bandwidth goes. My kids are downstairs fighting it out. It's a Cuban Missile Crisis going down because somebody doesn't have bandwidth right now. I guarantee you. So I'm just taking a small break from the world of bandwidth.
You guys figure it out downstairs. I need to do this. But not just entrepreneurs, but you guys are inventors too. Like and that takes entrepreneurship into a different level. Having that, I mean, yes, entrepreneurs are always inventing new ways to do things, but then to actually apply and invent something that's different and patent it, that's pretty cool. His siblings, you have a very talented, intriguing family. It's not just one of you, it's all of you.
Well, I think we have our parents to thank for that. I would say that maybe a third characteristic is we're all service oriented. There's social workers in our families, teachers, and I think the core of it is just finding yourself in a situation and trying to leave it just a little bit better for the next person that came behind it. So I think that's a common thread even between all three: entrepreneurship, military, and being part of a service orientation.
There you go, guys. Strategic lessons right there from my main man, Tommy, in Texas. Right? But what are you doing now? Talk about what you're doing now, because it's pretty cool, and you still have that service heart in what you're doing.
Well, I started up my own business. It's a media production and a publication company, and I've just drawn through a lot of the activities I did in the Air Force. I was an intelligence officer. Worked a lot with photography videos on drones, on aircraft such as U-2s, and I just incorporated all of that. And I also have a cultural background in the Air Force, so I received a lot of cultural training, so I could go overseas and just understand the local customs and so forth, to be efficient in that environment. And I just drew it all into my media production company. I essentially, at the end of the day, I try to tell a story, and I try and tell a story with new types of media, like 360-degree or virtual reality media. I'm going to be moving into drones, things like Google Earth tools. That all it comes down to is telling a stories that have been told for millennium. Now you're just using different tools. It's like taking a black and white movie and turning it to color. It's
right.
Just additional layers of engagement to tell what is at heart is the same
So
thing.
like when you were, in service still and you were doing all of these things with the drones and all of that, could you envision yourself? Did it ever occur to you that like, I might want to like continue this on, as a hobby? Or did you ever think that it was going to be part of your life?
Well, I thought eventually, I hoped eventually I'd be an entrepreneur. I didn't know in what. I thought maybe I could be an ice cream salesman. I could drive an ice cream truck. But especially towards the latter part of my career, I just got some more and more enamored of photography and videography that when it came time to separate, and actually when it came time for me to I went back to school one last time to get a degree in communications to kind of synthesize all this. That's what I realized I wanted to do. I realized those were skills that maybe I could employ in my new business. Plus, I got to focus on things I was just naturally interested in. So that all led together. They're all parts of the puzzle.
So a couple of things is like, one, when you're out and about or you're watching the chaos within kids, because when you have children, there's always chaos, and you're going, do you envision these different movies, or you're like, oh, if I do this, that would be a fun little trailer or something? Is your mind constantly in this like production mode?
Absolutely. I mean, and it drives my wife crazy because I can't go to a parade and not start doing this thing. Like maybe this would look like this on screen, or I'll just choose a random quote from a movie that I think this reminds me of, and it only makes sense to me, maybe not to my wife. But yeah, and it drives me crazy. But that's, you tend to start to see the world in that. So my thing I tell people, if you ever want to find God, buy a camera. If you want to see the details, like the grandness, get a camera and just focus in on those minute little details, and you'll start to see the world in hugely different ways and hugely different appreciations. So that's how I kind of start to see things now, and I've become so invested in this that I can't help but see a normal situation in different ways.
That's so beautiful. I was so have you ever listened to or read the Tao, the teachings of the Tao? It's like
I have not, unfortunately.
Okay. So I'm actually starting it over. I listened to the one that Wayne Dyer did. So every week I would listen to one chapter of the Tao every day, because you hear things differently because you've changed from day to day. But one of them were about stopping and seeing the world, like paying attention to the way the leaf is flowing in the wind or a butterfly is passing by. And that is the first thing that I thought of when you were saying, if you want to like get close to God or see it, like pull out a camera and you capture these moments. And isn't that the truth? It almost gives you a deeper appreciation for the life you have when you can see the details in the small things.
Absolutely. It gives you an appreciation for the things you're missing when you're not paying attention. And just I think it just changes your outlook when you see light strike a tree a particular way that maybe before it was light in a tree, but
Right.
when you see it in terms of like focusing with a video camera or a photography, then you start to appreciate it in a much different way. And your own personal life is enriched because you're seeing it through a different viewpoint, and it just tells you when you apply that to life's greater lessons, is that maybe I can view this particular challenge at a different angle with a different exposure, and then maybe I'll come up with a different interpretation. So that's what I love about what I'm doing now.
What would you tell people? Because there's, like you said, it is. I do believe many veterans become entrepreneurials. They do something like that, inventors, or start their own business. What was maybe the biggest challenge? Well, two things. What was the biggest challenge from you from transitioning from applying what you did for 24, 25 years into what you're doing now? Was there a challenge for you in that transitional application?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I retired about 4 years ago, and that was retirement was the single most challenging thing I think I did while I was in the military, and this includes deploying, which I did a large number of times. The retirement was the biggest thing because it was like a perfect storm. Four different storm fronts or so moving together. So veterans typically move away from the place they're living to the place where they're going to live. So just moving a family is a challenge in and of itself.
Hmm.
The way of life that you identified yourself with for however long a time, that's that's changing. And then obviously there's a need to find a new job, which might require a new set of skills. So you have all those forces, one of which alone is a life challenge. You got 4 or 5 different life challenges converging at a single point in time, and it's the time pressure. I think the first one is what are you going to do with your to secure your livelihood, that you have to come up with some pretty quick answers in amongst all these different life changes. And so that is something that I think you have to go through to really appreciate the gravity of. And I
Hmm.
think most of my friends that have retired, I think I'm just speaking for myself. I think that you're actually it's a process where you're retiring within four. It takes 3 or 4 years to really to retire, to really decide to figure out what it is you want to do and move forth with. So that retirement, just that joining the military by comparison was easy. Leaving the military was pretty hard.
But you got through it. And was it just
Absolutely.
tackling one thing at a time? Just looking at it like, okay, we're moving forward. We don't know where we're moving to, but all right, we're gonna just keep going, 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 and then that gave you the ability to open up and then create this business.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It was, and the wheels were turning the whole time, and then I decided at some point I needed to get some new skills, even as I was in the process of retiring. So made the decision that in the near future I was probably going to go back to school with my GI Bill, so I could get a lot of photographic videography skills that I needed for the second life that I wanted. And it, but you're doing it all during a transition phase. And I think people like to use the term "I was building my airplane as I was flying it." It's exactly that.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I'm hearing, like as you're talking to him, like you allowed yourself to kind of put your ego aside and go through who Tommy is evolving into, right? Um, I'm going to learn a new skill. I don't know everything. I don't know where this was going, but you had like internal strength to know in your core who you were. So it kind of maybe, I'm going to put the word fear because it would be scary as crap for me, but it was allowed for you, like, okay, I have the confidence, even though it might be scary, I don't know the outcome of it. I have the confidence in who I am and my abilities to allow myself to like let that ego drop and go.
Yeah, I think at that point, your ego, and don't get me wrong, I've got as bad as egos as anybody else, but the ego starts to become a detriment. It starts to become drag and friction. That you can cater to that, you can accommodate your ego, but you're just ultimately making things harder. You just have to be humble to know that you're going to be starting as a rookie again in some new career field. But I think even as challenging as that for me, I think it was even more challenging for my wife and kids because I'm decided to take this wild bus ride, and in my own mind, I think I got an idea of where I'm coming from. But they're on that bus with me, and their own lives are being impacted by the swerves and the turns I'm doing, and maybe I can't express my vision to them in a way that they can understand or appreciate. So they're taking you on faith, and at the same time, I don't want to be the person that just that sets any family member back from their own aspirations. So it's I think that even that was the hard part. You might have faith in yourself, but at the same time, you have to establish a sense of your family members having faith in you, and that's earned. That's demonstrated. Um, you have to demonstrate that, or else they'll do it because they love you, but they won't be they won't be very happy.
Right.
And
And then that in itself is a ripple effect of like total chaos. You want to talk about a war going downstairs with that bandwidth? There would be a lot bigger war happening if you didn't keep that in mind. What are some of the cool projects that you've been able to do and apply, or that you have envisioned of where your company's going?
Well, a couple different things. I've it just every day is learning. I'm trying to learn how to apply new digital media to traditional storytelling. So I've been able to develop a product where I'll get 360-degree photographs, be able to turn those into color, where so you can swivel a 360-degree photo, and it looks like you're in an oil painting and so forth. Or be able to put together a podcast and marry that up with some images that look like a graphic novel, but it's right on top of a podcast. And to get all that and be able to post that into an ebook, a flip book. So those are things I didn't know how to do when I retired, but it's the thing that energizes me when I wake up in the morning. Is that I'd like to figure out how to do that so I can do. I'd like to figure out how to do A so I can do B with it. And
Yeah.
I think that it's better than coffee as far as getting jazzed up,
All right, don't get carried away. I was with you until you said it was better than coffee. Then I had to go, you know what?
Within reason.
We were so close. We were so close. As he drinks his coffee.
Exactly. And I underline my own argument.
Well, everyone needs a Tommy in their back pocket. Someone who has the techniques, has the skill, has the knowledge, but also wanting to grow on that, right? So we don't get stagnant, because a lot of times we do something that's brilliant. Like we have put out a podcast or even a website or something, and it's so great. Well, in 6 months, is it still that great? Are you still on the cutting edge? So having someone who's willing to be always evolving and learning to go to that next step, I think that is something special that stands you apart from other people that are in your industry. Personal opinion.
Well, thank you for those words. Those are probably more compliments than I probably deserve for anything. But you're right. You have to. I mean, the industry changes so fast, and so much that you really have to stay on top of things, and you really have to be a sponge and absorb. But at the same time, there's only 24 hours in a day, so you have to pick and choose what it is you want to focus on, or else you'll find yourself a master of nothing, and that's not what people I think want to invest their money in. If a person isn't a master of his craft, so there's a lot. It's just more of it's a hugely mental process.
And you're on the road. You're on the roller coaster of life, and you're doing it.
Well, thank you for that. And I hope I like to think I've had a good start, because I'm just starting on, and I like to think I'll have a good finish too. So it's just the in-betweens that make life worth living.
Isn't that true? The in-betweens that make life worth living, right? It's not the beginning part. It's not that end product that you had. It's all the stuff in between. Like if you think of your military career, right? It was so cool in the beginning. You'll always remember that first day. You'll probably remember that last day, but it's everything in between that made you into here for you to now go, start over and do it. I love that vision. I'm such a visual person. That's a very cool vision for me. See, it just comes out of you, all of this, capturing life, capturing moments.
Well, I've had enough coffee to make that happen. So yeah. You're exactly right on the point. I was wrong to underestimate the power of coffee.
Thank you for agreeing. Thank you for coming back onto my side of the coffee loving machine and at least giving it that acknowledgement. But as we're wrapping up here, everybody can find you on the link that's attached. Go check it out, see his projects. And he's a man of service. I just want to put that out there because we didn't really talk very much into that, but you will see that on his site and the more you do get to know him. But in this moment right now, Tommy, I ask you to answer this question with the first thing that comes to your mind or your heart, no matter how silly or wonky it is. But what does love mean to you?
Love means to me peaceful coexistence with the people who matter most to you. It means doing things, being with the people that you want to be with, doing things that are beneficial to them, and at the same time being happy with your own place in your own environment, within your own space. So
Oh, yeah.
it's a big balancing act, and you can love one thing to the detriment of something else. So I think everything has to be in balance as well.
It isn't that balance. Yeah. And that balance has to include you, which I love how you threw that in there, right? We can service other people, but if that balance is off within ourselves, we are only giving a smidgen of what our true capacity is.
That's right. I agree with that.
Oh, well, Tommy, thank you for sharing who you are and what brought you to where you sit right now. You have an amazing life, an amazing story. You can see you forging forwards and really taking ownership and developing who you are and developing the beginning of this great company. And I'm so excited to see where the future brings you.
Well, thank you very much, Anna. I really appreciate you having me on the show. And again, you're pretty liberal with your compliments. So I'm not gonna argue with any of them. I'm gonna accept them at value. But
don't do it. I love Texas. Don't give me a reason to come there and put my Marine mom on you. Like, we don't need that. Well, everybody out there, until next time, remember, as always, love hard, love pure, and love proactive. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.